So what we're here for today is that the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, the EU-US Free Trade Agreement, will contain investor-state dispute settlement, which allows corporations to sue governments for any regulation that they don't like. For instance, taking the NHS back into public hands, or taking British Rail back into public hands. We would be sued by corporations for that. So you can see that that prevents any of the measures that we actually want, and is a big threat to democracy, to lawmaking, and to the public purse as well.
TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, is designed as a one-way street for privatisation, a one-way street for the worst aspects of mainly American labour law, environmental law and corporate governance to be imposed on Europe, which by and large has a higher level of social expenditure and much better levels of provision of public health and national health service care in the case of our country or other equivalents across Europe. That's why we need the public to understand that democracy is under threat.
Indeed, yesterday, when we called on, with colleagues across Europe, called on the European Commission to give us a European Citizens Initiative, which would allow us to petition the European Commission on this, to say you need to review this and to give us a hearing in Parliament. The European Commission said no, we will not even give you the right to petition us on this. And we know that they won't give us the right to petition on this, because if people really knew what they were negotiating, there's no way on earth that they would accept it.
CETA, it's worth mentioning in terms of the environment and climate change that one of the things that CETA will almost certainly facilitate is the smooth entry of tar sands oil into the EU. And that's something that campaigners have been opposing for a number of years now. This is one of the most dirty forms of fossil fuel ever conceived, not only because it requires a huge amount of energy to get to it in the first place, but it requires removing a layer of pristine forest to get to it in the first place, and it requires numerous incredibly toxic chemicals to get to it in the first place.
What sort of democracy can we call this, where legislation that will affect every one of our lives, every aspect of our future, every way that we could try to replan a low carbon, zero carbon economy with a better standard of living, tackling inequalities and choosing how we live our lives in the future? How can that be? We've got to say no to this. You're all out here today at a few hours' notice, and I know you're all representing many hundreds and thousands of people across the country who are going to stand up together and say no. No to TTIP and no to CETA, and let's not have any more of these dodgy deals that are in the interest of corporations and not in the interest of the majority of individuals.
The slimiest, dirtiest trick of all is that they're slipping through the Canada-EU Free Trade Agreement, which is called CETA. That stands for Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. They've been negotiating that for a bit. It's been like wobbling around, not signed up. Suddenly, they're going to finalise it on the 25th of September. And it contains ISDS. But the analysis of our responses to the consultation on ISDS and TTIP won't be out till November. So just how dirty is that?
And when I think about that house down the road there, and you know, we are supposedly living in a representative democracy, and our MPs, they can't be experts on everything, of course they can't, but some of them are barely competent, it seems. And how many of them have looked into the case of TTIP? How many of them have challenged inside their own parties to say, look, what is this that we are going to be considering passing into legislation? What is this agreement across Europe, across the globe, that could have such horrendous consequences for everyone? Whose interest will these TTIP agreements be in?
And the one bit of good news I've got is not just that the movement is growing unbelievably fast in Britain and in Europe, but in the United States of America, Congress has stopped President Obama getting the authority he needs to negotiate this treaty. This is very important. It is impossible to see Obama going back and forth to Congress with amendments and clauses and so on being disputed by both Democrats and Republicans. It's impossible to see how it will get in if they continue to refuse him that power. So when Lord Livingston, the Trade Minister, comes to us and says, you're all a load of anti-Americans, that's absolute rubbish, because the campaign in America has been even stronger than the campaign in Europe has been, and we're working with our friends and colleagues and comrades in America to make sure for the sakes of both of our societies, these treaties never enter into law.